So, what if the biggest thing holding you back from real financial success isn't your job, or your background, or even your luck? According to T.R. Ecker, it's actually something way deeper, your mindset. And in this explainer, we're going to break down the 10 game-changing shifts that can completely rewire your relationship with money. Let's dive in.
Everything, and I mean everything we're about to talk about, comes back to this one simple sentence. What you focus on expands. It sounds almost too simple, right? But think about it for a second. If your mind is like a magnifying glass, what are you aiming it at all day? Are you focused on all the problems, all the things you don't have, or are you looking for opportunities and solutions? Because that one little choice, well, it changes your entire financial reality.
And this slide really nails the two different worlds that these mindsets create. I mean, one person looks at a situation and sees a brick wall. That's it, an obstacle, a dead end. But the other person, they see the exact same wall, but they're already looking for the opportunity. Is there a door, a window, a way to climb over? It's not just a cute metaphor. This is the fundamental fork in the road that determines the path you're on.
So, how does this actually play out in the real world? Well, we're about to break down the 10 specific differences that separate these two ways of thinking. We've grouped them into 3 major shifts that are going to completely change how you think about money, success, and maybe even your own potential.
Okay, the first and honestly the most critical shift is all about taking back control. It's about having that aha moment where you realize you are not just a passenger in your own life, getting tossed around by circumstances. No, you are the pilot. You've got your hands on the controls, and you have the power to steer your own financial destiny.
The book uses this really powerful analogy. Picture this. You're on an airplane, and it starts going down. The poor mindset? It immediately defaults to panic. They see themselves as a victim, totally powerless. They complain, they blame, and they basically just buckle up and hope for the best, leaving everything up to chance.
But the rich mindset? It's completely different. They're immediately looking for a way to take control. They believe they're the main character in their own story. Now, they might not know how to fly a plane, but you can bet they are going to get into that cockpit and try. They actively create their life. They don't just let life happen to them.
And that whole pilot versus passenger thing directly feeds into how you approach your financial goals. So ask yourself, are you playing defense, just trying to survive and not lose the little you have? Or are you playing offense, actively trying to score and actually win the game of wealth? That distinction is absolutely crucial. The big takeaway here is that your goals literally create a ceiling for what you can achieve. If your main goal is just to have enough to pay the bills, then guess what? The best you can ever hope for is to have just enough to pay the bills. The rich, on the other hand, they aim for massive wealth and abundance because, hey, if you shoot for the stars, even if you miss, you're still probably going to land on the moon.
And this right here is the final piece of taking control. See, everybody wants to be rich. Wanting is easy. It's totally passive. But being committed, that's a whole different ballgame. It means you're willing to make the sacrifices, to put in the work, to climb that mountain even when it's hard. Commitment is an action, plain and simple. Okay, so you've taken control of your inner world. Awesome. Now let's look at how that one shift completely changes your perception of the outside world, especially how you view wealth itself and the people who actually have it.
This is such a massive mental block for so many people. Here's the thing. You cannot become something that you resent. If deep down you believe rich people are all greedy or evil, your subconscious mind will literally sabotage any attempt you make to become one of them. You're pushing away the very thing you think you're chasing. It's crazy.
And this slide just cuts right through a huge myth about money. Money isn't good or evil. It's just an amplifier. It takes who you already are and just turns up the volume. So a generous person with money becomes more generous. A greedy person, well, they become more greedy. So if you're a good person, wealth is just going to give you a greater capacity to do good in the world.
This next point is all about your sense of self-worth. You know, people with a poor mindset are often terrible receivers. They can't take a compliment, they feel guilty asking for a raise, and they feel like they don't deserve success. On a really deep level, they're constantly sending a signal to the universe that says, nope, I'm not worthy of abundance.
I love this analogy. Just think of money and opportunity like rain. It's going to fall somewhere. Now, if your little patch of ground is all closed off because you believe you don't deserve it, that rain is just going to flow to someone who's open and ready. So the question is, are you ready to open up and let it in?
This brings us to a really common trap, these false choices. A poor mindset operates from a place of scarcity, of limits. It thinks in terms of either or. You know, I can have this or I can have that, but there's no way I can have both.
A rich mindset just flat out refuses to accept these artificial limits. It comes from a place of abundance. So instead of choosing, they ask a much, much more powerful question. How can I have a great career and a wonderful family? How can I be wealthy and happy? That one question opens up a whole new world of creative possibilities.
All right, we've covered the internal shifts and the external ones. Now it's time for the third and final piece of the puzzle, the practical actions. This is where the rubber meets the road, where your new mindset turns into real-world habits that actively build wealth.
A poor mindset is often totally fixated on earned income, your hourly wage, your monthly salary, but that's just one tiny piece of the financial picture. The rich get that the real game is about building net worth. That's the total value of everything you own minus everything you owe. That is the true measure of your financial health.
Think of building wealth like trying to drive a bus. Your income? That's just one of the four wheels. To actually get anywhere, you need all four working together. Your income, what you earn, your savings, what you keep, your investments, how your money grows for you, and simplification, which just means lowering your expenses. Trying to get rich on income alone is like trying to drive that bus on one wheel. You're just not going to get very far.
And here's a fundamental truth. Trading your time for money puts a hard limit, a ceiling, on your income. I mean, there are only 24 hours in a day, right? The wealthy understand this completely, which is why they focus on getting paid for the results they produce, not the hours they put in. That shift totally removes the income ceiling and opens the door to unlimited earning potential.
This brings us to the last and maybe the most critical habit. It really doesn't matter how much money you make if you don't know how to manage it. You have to be the master of your money, or, I promise you, it will become the master of you. Financial fitness starts with this one habit, no matter how small you start.
And this slide lays out a super simple but incredibly effective system for managing your money. The whole idea is to give every single dollar a specific job the second it comes into your life. By splitting your income into these 5 accounts, you make sure you're covering all your bases: your present needs, your future growth, your education, and this is a big one, your enjoyment of life right now. It's all about creating intentional balance.
So that's the journey we've been on. It starts with a simple internal belief: I am in control. And that belief changes how you see the world, which allows you to admire success instead of resenting it. And finally, that new perspective is what drives the practical, daily habits that actually build lasting wealth. See how it all connects?
In the end, every single point we've talked about really just comes down to a choice. You can choose to be a passenger or a pilot. You can choose to see walls or doors. You can choose to play defense or you can choose to play to win. So the real question isn't just about what mindset you have right now, but what mindset are you going to actively choose to build starting today? The power is, and always has been, entirely in your hands.